Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the debut of Hands Across the Water at the Fest. Thank you everyone for coming. We are a fairly new podcast. We've been going maybe 4 months, something like that. Something like that, and we're an intercontinental. So I'm from the UK. My two buddies here are from the US, and an intergenerational podcast, because I'm in my 60s and in his 40s. Carl's in his 20s, so we get this great overview of the same topic from different perspectives, and that's kind of what we're about. Today's show is going to be debunking Beatles myths. So I'm sure you've all got one or two favourites. We've got a lovely. It's a small audience, but perfectly formed, I would say.
Quality over quantity.
Perfect
Absolutely.
So let me introduce my co-hosts. On my left, Carl Hand from Brooklyn.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Thank you, Chicago. Yeah, I'm ready to bust some Beatles myths and maybe make some new ones.
I think it's always worth pointing out that we're not called Hands Across the Water because we've got someone called Hand on the panel. It's because I'm in the UK, they're in the US. And on my right, your left, Andy Nichols, as usual, from the Two Legs podcast.
A hand and a leg. See, it works.
And a toe.
And a toe.
And a leg.
And a leg. And we're separated by water too. So it really does work, Kyle and I.
The Hudson River?
That's right, baby. So it is truly across the water, and I'm happy to be here for our first ever panel at a fest, here with our buddy who came all the way over from the UK to be here to connect with us and share and do all this great stuff with us. So I'm happy to be here on a Sunday to kick around and do it. Hello, Scott. Welcome. And happy to be here, just kicking around. And again, it's been a busy couple of months for our show. We kicked around some really great things. We've done some deep dives. We've done some live stuff. Our most recent video was that Billy Joel myth, which we're going to get to today, about his White Album take, which I'm sure will come up at some point today. But yeah, let's kick it around.
So picture this panel as you're at the office and you're at the water cooler. Everybody knows the water cooler, right? And somebody's telling you, you like the Beatles? Yeah, I like a couple of their songs. And it's like, well, it's really a shame that Yoko broke up the Beatles, right? Well, now this panel, we're going to be debunking those big myths like that, from big common ones like that to smaller ones that are more interesting to nerdy folks like us. So,
right.
Tony?
So, should we start there?
You want to start with the basic, the old tried and true by Yoko?
Let's have a little poll from the audience.
And be honest.
Does anyone believe that Yoko broke up the Beatles?
Be honest.
You do, Scott.
Influence is a fair word.
Speak up a bit. Okay.
They want to hear you in England.
Anyone else for Yoko? No.
Well, I think the reason it's such a prevalent myth is because a lot of people may have thought that at first. That was the story for so long.
Yeah, she's a very strong personality. She's a little bit controversial. She does have a tendency to sit on amplifiers. She does scream a lot. But when you look at where the Beatles were when Yoko came onto the scene, sort of 1968, we know, during the recording of the White Album, we know that Ringo wasn't happy, walked out for a little while, and lots of little bits of musical disagreements. There's business disagreements going on with the forming of Apple and things like that. And I always think that probably more than Yoko, I think Alan Klein had a much bigger impact on the division between Paul and the other three. What do you think, Andy?
I think the short answer is no, but she didn't help the situation. And if we're being practical, no one person can break it up. I think Alan Klein, as Tony just mentioned, is the outlier for reasons that, Paul tells that classic story about every decision we made was democratic. If one person ever strayed from it, we didn't do it. In that situation, that didn't happen, right? And that was where the crack started. I mean, but it was easy to, in pre-internet, pre-everything, media in our face, it was very easy to just have her be the sole person.
She was the symbol.
And she's not. Is she part of the story? Yes, that's my opinion.
I think that she was really like a symptom of the disease that was already killing the
Festering.
Beatles, right?
It was festering.
I think that there's a lot of other kind of like cultural reasons why you might want to blame Yoko specifically and not Linda,
Sure.
Because when you think about it, after the Beatles broke up, they both made music with their wives.
Right, and
So-
leaned heavily on them.
So I think it was more so, that's why that later period of the Beatles is so interesting to people like us who love their solo careers as well. Because it's not a clean break between Let It Be is released and then, they just suddenly start their solo careers.
Right.
It was like they were already plotting to go on their own ways. George is already writing All Things Must Pass. Paul is using songs from the Let It Be sessions on the McCartney album. So I think it was the beginning of their solo careers where we see them, start to work with Yoko and Linda, etc.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you talk about the comparison between Yoko and Linda, because we see in in the Let It Be film and in the Get Back film that Linda was also in the studio, but it's always kind of, well, she was always there. She was always in the studio, and she was there more than Linda, but no one ever kind of makes that reference to the fact that Linda was there as well, and the kids.
Yeah.
Well, Heather anyway.
Yeah.
What do you all think?
That's the little one, not the big horrible one.
Tony, what do you think, man?
Would you all agree with me that Alan Klein was far more to blame for the breakup than Yoko?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Alan Klein, Tony asks, is Alan Klein more to blame for the breakup than Yoko? Yes,
Yes.
1,000%.
100%. Lynette.
But think if Yoko had never come into John's life, she's over in Japan, and they never meet, and he never becomes obsessed with her. I mean, I think they were already trending, to split. But would they have, or would they have done it so quickly and abruptly? Would they have fallen in with Klein?
So that's a great what if.
Yeah.
If Yoko had never met John, how differently would this play out?
Well, I think we'll grab that quick, Tony. I think with the death of Brian Epstein, that was really the end, the game changer, right? That happens and everything changes. Yoko, once he's gone, Yoko could, if Yoko doesn't come into 5 down the line, I think that they eventually are gonna fall apart because they couldn't sustain it. They could not sustain what they had, built. They were not businessmen. It was gonna happen eventually. I think Yoko maybe accelerated it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it
It couldn't support its own weight.
no.
I think it was more that maybe there was some jealousy there that that John was very very into Yoko. Paul and Linda were just starting around that sort of time, but we know that Ringo and Maureen weren't so happy, nor George and Patty. It's very difficult to say, but they definitely needed someone to take the reins as far as the business went. Once Brian had gone, they just picked the wrong bloke.
Yeah.
That's the problem, because that caused the division where you had 3 of them on one side, 1 on the other, and there was not really any coming back from that. So my opinion is that Alan Klein is more to blame, but it's a combination of things. It is a combination of things. So no one's really to blame. Should we move on to?
Well, one more comment and we'll
Yeah,
move
sure.
on.
I mean, as a kid, I never thought that Yoko was a problem, only because if John loved her, then I loved her.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was how I had to look at
Sure.
any step parent. No, all right, if my mom loves you, then I guess I have to.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've always said as well. That if you don't understand Yoko, then you don't understand John. You can't have one without the other. You can't have one without the other.
Like their solo careers with that, I think they were destined for greater things. And I don't know that, like, to piggyback on your comments about they were kind of going that way anyway. Right? And I don't think anything was going to stop those trains.
No.
Yes.
Whether it was a Yoko or any other woman or partner of any kind like that.
By that time, they were so.
I think it was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, and then the gentleman in the
I
back.
think there's two other factors that we gotta look at as well. One, Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus and the revival show that John does both of those, and he plays with other people, and he's like, "What's this? Oh my God!" And I think that was also a factor in accelerating the breakup.
Yeah, maybe, but you've also got George that goes out on tour with Delaney and Bonnie as well. So he's spreading his wings and playing with other musicians as well.
They're all itching to do their own things. I mean, I think that the best thing that ever happened to the Beatles is them breaking up. You know,
Yeah.
Like I would not want, what is it called, the Hackney Diamonds Rolling Stones thing. I mean, no hate on that. You know, it's not. I'd much more rather have Ringo making his thing, Paul making his thing, and we have so much there with the solo careers, all because they did the mature thing. They didn't worry about
That's a hot take.
Yeah.
Well, that's when you come to expected hands across the water.
It's a hot take.
It's also something that I've also thought as well, because I'm a second generation Beatles fan, so they'd already gone by the time I arrived at the Beatles. They'd already split up by about 6 years ago. But I just I realised that first generation fans were just a little bit salty about them breaking up in 1970. But when you come to it from a second generation Beatles fans
Really have.
point of view, you've got, instead of getting one album a year, you're getting 4 albums a year. So it's,
And Ringo's on all of them.
Yeah.
Ringo's on all of them.
Gentleman in the red shirt had a question.
Oh, I was just going to say regarding Yoko, patriarchal society romanticizes the Fab Four, and well, it must be a woman who took it.
Yeah.
The femme fatale.
Yeah.
Jeremy. Just to play on Kyle's point is, you go out on top, you have an album with 3 #1 hits, that's what has people yearning always for more. Boy, no, I mean, what other band did that? I mean, there's been a few that have, but I mean, the Fabs, I mean, that's just incredible. That's what I looked at. It's like, boy, you didn't go out,
No.
with some shitty release or whatever. You got a massive 3 #1 hit album, so enough said.
Totally.
Yes, John.
I think growing up broke up.
Growing up
Yeah,
broke up the
growing up.
Beatles.
Yeah.
You think about it, 15 years old they're about 30 when they call it a day. It's a long time. We get spoiled by it because it's like, oh my God, you're only together, you only did 8 years of recorded activity. But 57 to 1970, that's what people don't realize.
Yeah.
And especially in this country, Ed Sullivan, 64, by that point, they already had 7 or 8 years together. Working and working and working, trying to come together. Scotty.
I also think that's
Yeah, we touched upon that before. So we move on.
Shall we move on?
Another myth.
What would you like? What would you like?
How about Ringo?
Ringo.
Because Tony is a resident drummer here.
Okay. Let's talk about Ringo. We've got 2 Ringo myths actually. We've got two Ringo myths. So, one of the things that gets quoted a lot is Ringo was really lucky. He's the luckiest man on earth to be around at that time. He gets into the Beatles, and he's so underappreciated as a drummer because firstly, the main job of a drummer is to be the timekeeper, and he's probably the greatest timekeeping drummer there has ever been. We've heard George Martin say that they can, when they were editing takes together, they could take one take and another take that happened, 20 minutes later or something like that, and edit them together because Ringo's drumming was so spot on that, it was like playing to a click track. And, he was never, never a flamboyant drummer like, say, Keith Moon or John Bonham. But what he did was fantastic and was perfect for that band. So inventive. If you look at some of the really unusual grooves that he came up with, like Ticket to Ride, something like that, which is just a song, it's a straightforward song in 4/4, which he could just play on the hi-hat and the snare like most drummers probably would. But no, he goes kick drum, snare, top tom tom, kick drum, snare, top tom tom. Very different, and gives that song a completely different feel, much heavier feel to that song. And he did all sorts of, you can look at songs like Rain, where he's just absolutely outstanding. Strawberry Fields Forever, again, very inventive
We tackled that.
on that. Anyway.
So another point, because Tony can speak to his drumming prowess, which I can only appreciate, cannot speak to. What I can speak to is Ringo's personality, because for them coming to America, in the early '60s, this whole concept of this four-headed monster is fairly new. You have Buddy Holly and the Crickets.
Well,
you have Elvis as a standalone guy, right? To have each person have not only uniquely talented, but also have their own personalities. That's something that Pete Best just couldn't bring to the band. Right. And even today, we love Ringo doing his jumping jacks and posting emojis of broccoli. This is who he is, and that's the Beatles would not have been the same. I think he elevated them in that manner. I mean, he was the star of the movies.
Right. And he was the best drummer in Liverpool, and Pete Best was more of a convenient fill-in. They had a gig to go to Hamburg. We need a drummer, you have a kit, you're in. That was basically why he was there.
Yeah.
Because how many people had a kit? Okay, Alan Williams had already signed him to go to Hamburg, and okay, you've got a kit, you're gonna come along, you're fine.
And his mother owned a bar or something.
Casper.
Yeah, so they had free rehearsal space. But you only have to listen to something like the Decca auditions, or some of the tracks that are on Anthology 1 that Pete Best drums on, and there is a clear deficiency in his ability. That's for sure.
They made good on that though. They paid him well.
Yeah,
for that stuff on Anthology.
Yeah, he finally got paid when Anthology 1 came out. He made about £500,000.
The story I heard in Liverpool was that they said, Paul said, I've got £8 million here that can go to the tax man, or we can give it to Pete Best.
Yeah.
And Paul said, give it to Pete Best. So that was what was told to me in Liverpool from my tutor at the time. So if that's true, then good on Paul for taking care of Pete Best 30 years later.
Did you ever see the clip it might have been like the Basingstoke, the Beatles' first U.S. visit, where they're interviewing the girls and one of them says, Ringo's got a sexy nose. So you tell me right place, right time.
Yeah. You mentioned the Decca audition. That's a good kind of segue to our next one that Tony kind of thought of about. You want to talk about the Decca audition myth?
Yeah. So we all know the story. We all know the story that the Beatles auditioned for Decca on 1st of January 1962, and were turned down by Dick Rowe, who was the Decca A&R man. And you all know the quotes. Guitar bands are on the way out. Well, a couple of years ago, I went to see a show that was done by Mark Lewison. It was called Evolver 62, where he told 62 stories about what happened to the Beatles in 1962. And the one, 62 stories was just like too much for my brain, my old brain to take away. But the one that I did take away was the one that caused an absolute gasp from the audience when he told this story, and that was that following the audition, Dick Rowe, he offered Brian Epstein a kind of contract to record the Beatles, and he offered the drummer of the Shadows, whose name escapes me now, to produce it.
Nori Power.
That's the guy, and. Mark Lewison, he put up on the screen a letter that Brian Epstein sent to Dick Rowe. Thank you very much for your offer of assisting in recording the Beatles, but I'm afraid I've got to turn you down because we've been offered a contract by another, recording label, Parlophone. So, so that the myth that they, that Dick Rowe hated the Beatles is not really true. He did want to help out, but by the time he offered help, the Beatles had sorted themselves out with Parlophone. And we've got another story about that. Do you want to?
Similar time period later in '62, which has been debunked, but I think it kind of falls off the radar for most Beatle fans and scholars because Mark Lewison did discuss this in Tune In Volume 1. The fact that when the Beatles went to EMI on the 6th of June in '62 with Pete Best, they were already signed. The tale, like that has been told throughout for years, was that it was an audition, I don't like your tie, blah, 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 and then he signed them. Wrong. George Martin was told, you are signing this band.
Why?
Because he was having an extramarital affair. And the EMI brass did not like that. He was married, he had 2 kids, he had a family, and he was having an extramarital affair with Judy Lockhart Smith, who is Giles' mom. And in the early 60s, that's taboo, man, especially probably in the UK. So, and George Martin by that point was basically the head of A&R and Parlophone, which was kind of a label that was just producing comedy records. And okay, you are going to take this band on and you're going to sign them. So that myth, I think, it's known, but a lot of people forget about it. I think even now that this was already a done deal. They were signed, and in actual fact, that's why, we're not going to, all that stuff that Paul likes to put out there or have a recording contract, that was done. There was a telegram sent from Brian saying, look, they request a recording session. Please report on this date. So it was already said, locked in stone. I just think that people forget about that. Did anybody not realize that in the room, that it was already, or did you already kind of know that? Did you know that? Like, Lynette, did you know that was already a done deal? Yeah, it's just, I think a lot of people tend to forget about that. Now, that was a big deal when Tune In came out. And I think that's maybe why Mark sometimes gets, because he's really uncovered a lot in that book. And it's not always pretty, right? But that's the truth. And that's why he's taking forever to write these books, because that's really going to be the final word. And the man's taking forever to write Volume 2. We know that. But it's going to be worth it. And tales like this that are debunked, I think, make those books so valuable. So much I had to pull it back off and dust it off for this.
And that's actually kind of the special thing about myths. Myths can be useful tools. I think that it's important for us to debunk them and get to the bottom of it, learn the truth because we're so obsessed with this. Mm-hmm. But I think that for most people getting into the Beatles, a father telling his son about the history, I think I don't like your suit story is a little bit more polished than, let me teach you about an affair, young one.
Yeah. Yeah. Next one.
The next one, where should we go now?
How about the fact that the Get Back sessions?
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Another recent one that's been debunked, thankfully, to Peter Jackson. Go, Tone.
Yeah, so, we read in the Lennon Remembers interview that he did for Rolling Stone 1970. The Let It Be sessions were, the most miserable, godforsaken sessions that ever existed. And the way that the Let It Be movie was cut by, Michael Lindsay Hogg, it kind of comes over in that way. It does seem gloomy, it does seem dull and gloomy. And then we get the extended version, the 9-hour version, where we see all the bits that they didn't bother to put in Let It Be, where they're having a laugh, they're having fun, they're messing around in the studio. Completely different story. Did that come over as something that, a big variance between the two to people here?
Yeah.
Yeah. David.
I'm going to say something that might be controversial, Matt.
This is hot take city, David.
You've come to the right place.
Go.
What I worry about sometimes, worry in quotes, is that we debunk one myth and we replace it with another.
Oh.
So either it was the worst session ever, Or no, everything was great. They were having a great time. In reality, it was probably something in between.
Absolutely.
Historical revisionism.
It was absolutely something in the middle, because we saw George walk out in Get Back, didn't we? So it wasn't a whitewash, but there was enough good moments in that, there was film from every day during that month in January, and there was enough good moments in each day to say, though, it wasn't quite as miserable as everyone kind of remembers. I think.
Yeah, Phoebes, and then Phoebe.
I was going to say that that basically there's a lot of. I think that there's still a lot of love there. There's still a lot of love there, and they were going on different paths, but I think all in all, like they still had care for each other, and that's the important thing. I think.
Yeah.
And Peter Jackson masterfully did that at the end of episode 1. Episode 1. When they're hugging, yes. George leaves, and episode 1 ends, and the three of them huddle up like that. Who was not like reduced to a puddle of tears watching that? Oh my, that was fantastic.
I think the historical revisionism point is really interesting.
Oh, it's because is it all pizza and fairy tales?
There you go. I wish.
It's somewhere in the middle.
Well, so just a really quick jump on that.
Yeah.
So, Peter Jackson, what I think he did a great job with was kind of like Disney-fying this. Whether or not you kind of like that, I think that if that was his goal, he exceeded it, right? But I think that what Michael Lindsay Hogg, I'm happy that he kind of kept his artistic integrity there of saying, listen, you can re-release this film, but we're not going to do all the bright colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think part of what made it seem like all gloomy was, the kind of low light, dark colors. And it got like the remaster treatment without going too far.
Yeah. Kim, who's somebody had a question?
Tony, I just wanted to quickly say, I love what Paul said about it, that it wasn't until he watched Get Back that he remembered it had been awful and that there were so many good times. It really revised it for him as well in his memory.
Tony?
Just keep in mind that when Peter Jackson made that documentary, there were many hours of footage still left in the can we didn't get to see. So for all we know, it could have been a lot worse than we think based on that film. There could have been bad days that were not in the film.
It could have been, but those bits could have just been left out because they weren't very good or weren't very interesting.
We want to see them.
They were, he was already putting together a 9-hour thing. We understand there's an 18-hour director's cut, which I don't know if we'll ever see the light of day. But when you talk about Disney-fying, even when Let It Be got the Disney treatment, it didn't quite seem as gloomy as I remembered seeing it. The last
afterwards, because it was cleaned up. But you can never go back and watch Let It Be the same way after watching Get Back. Now, when you watch Let It Be, you're like, it's so jump cut. When you watch this 8-hour thing built out and developed and produced so well, and you go back to watch the old Let It Be, you're like, it's just so fragmented.
And once you've seen it as a day-by-day documentary, and then you watch Let It Be, you see how things are completely out of sequence and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll just kind of balance ourselves out in time, because when Let It Be came out, it was still in the midst of the Beatles breakup, where everything was so doom and gloom, and so maybe people were kind of like reading current events into that film. But now, 50-something years later, we kind of get the opposite, kind of like it was all so nice, the rose-colored glasses. And also they're trying to pitch that as like a family Thanksgiving viewing event too. So I wonder if, we will kind of find our way in the middle there as time goes on.
Interesting. Yeah. Jeremy.
Yeah, I would say one who did not have rose-colored glasses was Ringo, who was still very negative about Let It Be. If you remember when it was getting released on streaming, he was said something like, I didn't like it. Michael Lindsay Hogg had his own agenda. And didn't he say something like, well, every 5 minutes he's in the movie himself?
Yes.
Ringo was very negative still about the original movie.
The original film. Yeah. Interesting. Well, I mean, he is in it a lot. I mean, how many times are you going to ask him to play in Tunisia? Stop. They're not going anywhere. How many times does he keep asking him about that? They're not going anywhere. They're lucky they got on the damn rooftop. All right. We got another myth. Go ahead, Tony.
We're just going to
quickly.
We're just going to very briefly touch on this, the Paul is dead thing, because everyone knows it. Everyone knows it, and it's been done to death. But there's just a couple of things that I wanted to say.
He's alive. Moving on.
About this is the first. Oh, I think it has died.
It's died.
It has died. So the first thing is the I buried Paul thing at the end of Strawberry Fields. Now
I buried Paul.
Oh.
Now this is the one. This is the one that I most believe, because I know for a fact that John Lennon had a part-time job as a grave digger around that time. So if he did die, he probably did. But the main one that I want to debunk for an American audience is the Volkswagen, the 28 if thing. Now we know that has been debunked as far as the fact that depending on when you got the Abbey Road album, Paul would have been 27 if he had lived. But in the UK, registration plates, what do you call them here? License plates here. Okay, the last 4 characters, right, are 3 numbers and a letter. The letter at the end, the F in this case, denotes the year of manufacture. But the first 3 bits are actually 281. It's not 28 and an I.
Oh.
It's 281 is the number on that Volkswagen. So it was never going to be 28 if.
Thanks, Peter.
I'm not convinced.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
No, well, we didn't know that, but it's 281.
281F is the number plate.
There are some scary things out on YouTube. I saw a YouTuber who actually is like, his whole channel is like just proving that Paul is dead. It's like a rabbit hole that it's scary stuff. I had to watch like 2 minutes of it. His whole channel exists to just say that Paul, it's bad. Like, it's like the sadistically bad stuff. Scott. What's that? Yeah, I think it's that. I mean, that guy, that YouTuber is like, he just exists to just tell people he's got all these facts and all this nonsense.
Who's performing then?
It is a level of like sadistic disease. Just can't do it.
It's absolute mad. It's absolute madness. I get comments on my YouTube channel that whenever I'm talking about Paul, people call him Billy. And
Nonsense.
Or fool, as in fake Paul.
Yeah. Want to go to the White Album now?
It's like the Beatle, the Paul is dead version of Chillax, fool, fake Paul.
Yeah. So
anyway,
well, this is a good one because you weren't here. Our last episode on Hands Across the Water was Mr. Billy Joel's hot take on the White Album, which Kyle wasn't here for, so now he can add his 2 cents.
So just curious, getting a poll from the audience. Okay, so the common myth when it comes to the White Album is that everybody's in their separate studio making their own songs. It's just this hodgepodge of solo efforts that you throw onto this mess, right? So how many songs would we all guess that the Beatles, all 4 of them, were in the room to make?
30 songs.
Out of 30 songs. How many? Just shout it out.
Tom Frangione in the room.
You want to know how many all 4 were there?
Yeah. How many? If you had to take a guess, out of the 30 songs, how many?
No, way more.
I hear 6. I hear 20. I hear
it's
2.
The auction.
Yeah. Give me 20. Give me 2.
Do I hear 4?
24.
24.
18. 18 is, you wouldn't win Price is Right rules because it was 17. But you were very close.
17 tracks.
Very close.
17 songs, all 4 of them.
Yeah.
So just to read some interesting ones here. So Ringo and Paul only did the Toodles on 2 of them.
Yeah.
Why Don't We Do It in the Road? Don't Pass Me By. And then John and George just made Revolution 9 and Yoko as well. A couple other characters. And then No Ringo is on Back in the USSR and Dear Prudence. John is absent for Savoy Truffle, Long, 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 and Martha. And then obviously you have Paul solo on Mother Nature's Son, Blackbird, Wild Honey, and just John, of course, on Julia.
It's interesting, but people think that it's just all solo stuff. It's not. 17 songs. I mean, crazy.
Yeah.
But what do we think about Billy? Why would Billy Joel say this now? Why? Why? I mean, he loves the Beatles.
What did Billy Joel say? Repeat.
Yeah.
He basically said that it's half baked, and it was they're stoned out of their minds, and they didn't like it, and they hated making it. I'm like, Billy, why would you say that?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Jeremy.
He took some of the Quincy Jones juice. That's
Did you hear Billy ever describe it? Was in one of his box sets. He's talking about side 2 of Abbey Road, and he says that medley, of course it was done in pieces. There's no way that could all be in one session. And he demonstrated it on the piano, but all the parts he played were from one song. They were from "You Never Give Me Your Money." Give me your money, okay. One sweet dream. He says, "There's no way he did that in one session." Guess what?
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see him on the collector's panel in New Jersey.
Tony's got another myth he wants to hit on.
Okay, so have you heard the story that John was once asked whether Ringo was the best drummer in the world, and he answered, "He's not even the best drummer in the Beatles." Everyone heard that?
Yes.
Anyone believe it?
Not for real.
No. Yeah. So I'll tell you
Here's the myth.
I'll tell you where it comes from. So this joke, if you trace it back, there's 2 sources of this joke, and I believe that it's attributed to John Lennon, because it's quite possible that it's the sort of thing that he might have said. He's very quick-witted. It's sort of things that. But the first time I heard it was on I don't know if you heard of a comedian from Birmingham, UK, called Jasper Carrott, and he had a show on the BBC called Carrot's Confidential, and he just threw it wasn't so much as a joke. He was just doing a monologue, and he threw it into the story, but he actually nicked that joke from someone else. The first time that joke appeared was on a Radio 4 show, which I can't remember what was it called. Radioactive. And the joke was written by a guy called Geoffrey Perkins, who was a comedy writer for the BBC. And he originally wrote that joke in 1981, and Jasper Carrott nicked it. And apparently John Lennon nicked it as well. Very, very strange.
But how does that happen?
But I don't know. But it does sound like the sort of thing that John. He wouldn't say that about Ringo, but it's that sort of very, very sharp-witted comment that that John is
Because you could see him saying it, but now you go on your scroll on your social media and you see these fake quotes attributed to all kinds of Beatles, and half of them are just totally wrong.
Yeah.
All of them. And that's one of them, too.
Yeah.
You see a lot of them. That's that one when I was 5. People told me this, that, and the other thing. Bogus. Nah, that's...
The teacher one.
Yeah.
What do you want to be when you grow up? No, that...
But, yeah, this is getting put out there, and some people believe it. I mean, that could take the conversation to a whole other thing, AI and myths.
Yeah, stay tuned for after the show for AI discussion.
It was one this week when the country singer Janine Shealy died, and Paul and Ringo got up and sang "Let It Be" at her funeral.
Yeah.
But it's amazing to see what if you scroll and you see people actually believe this crap.
And speaking of our intergenerational nature here,
yes.
Just for the record, that's your generation believing these AI stuff.
I don't think it is, because I'm the one in the comments going bullshit.
We know when we see it, all right?
He doesn't fall for it, but yes.
There was one with Paul McCartney and Phil Collins.
Oh, I saw that one. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any non-AI related myths that we can debunk? Because I just debunked the one that it's my generation that gets fooled, but it's not.
So they're gonna get fooled again.
It's not your generation that gets fooled. It's just your generation that creates it.
Oh!
I don't know.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Oh my goodness.
Any other ones? Come on. I mean, Thanksgiving's around the corner. We gotta debunk some myths.
Tony.
Yeah.
A myth I want to debunk is that John was the doctor and Paul was
Oh.
It's
I'm
funny.
glad you brought that one up.
It's funny you should say that. We've got that on our list. So yeah, absolutely. We know that is the myth, that John's the adventurous, experimental, the rocker, but Paul is as well. Paul probably did the avant-garde thing before John had even heard of it, maybe.
Yes.
With creating the tape loops for Tomorrow Never Knows, even though it wasn't his song. He did, very instrumental in creating them. Brought them all, did them all at home. Brought them
In
brought them in.
the Asher household.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for that one.
My doppelganger. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why that is so, out there is that, he dominates those early records. And they're all rock. I mean, those are all rockers.
Yeah.
Paul didn't get as many vocal rockers on those early albums as many as John did.
No, I'll come back to that, Tom. But you can also, when we're talking about the the weird and wacky stuff, Carnival of Light is Paul's baby. Not that we've ever heard it properly, but yeah. I mean, Paul, early days, John was the rocker, but you look at some of the rockers that Paul's done back in the USSR. I'm Down, Sergeant Pepper, Birthday. They Get Back. There's lots and lots of stuff, and conversely, John, he's not shy. He's not shy to put out a ballad. I'll Be Back, If I Fell, In My Life, Girl, Across the Universe.
It's just funny. These myths, this whole discussion is really honestly making me pro myth. Yeah, at the end of the day, because I mean, I think that the reason that the Beatles were able to break through was, yes, in large part their musicianship, but also their commercial viability, right? The fact that you can put these four guys on a lunchbox and they each have their own personalities is partly what gave them the momentum to be able to go on and record those more serious, sonic arts, such as, Rubber Soul all the way through Abbey Road. So I think that for anybody getting into the Beatles, it's a very relatable, accessible template of okay, John is the rocker, Paul is the softie. But what we love about the Beatles is that there's a deep, deep iceberg there where then it's okay, you get into Paul when he's singing Lady Madonna and Let It Be, but then you start to hear Kansas City, you hear Junior's Farm, and you're like, wow, there's a lot more to this guy. So I think some of these myths are helpful, and they can be these entryways, and it's so fascinating to realize that they're just myths.
That people want to explore. Is that really true? Is that really true?
Yeah. That's why we're here.
And I think you could speak to yourself. That's kind of how you learned, right? That way?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my childhood's a little bit more recent memory.
Especially for me.
But no, yeah. I mean, George being.
We love our generational podcasts.
Yeah,
we do.
Peace and love.
Yeah. Tom,
I got one.
Go ahead.
The all-time worst and misguided myth Beatle bodies. Ringo was the luckiest guy in the world. He was in the right place at the right time.
We hit that one before you came in.
Funny you say that.
Sorry.
We did, but totally agree with you. It's just so wrong.
It was right up there with Dylan Can't Sing and Yoko broke up the Beatles.
Yeah.
Had to go. Had to go. David.
Well, I mean, and this goes back to the historians panel the two of you were on the other day. The reality is, though, that history is shaped by people who control the narrative, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, if you look back, where did a lot of these myths come from? It didn't come from AI, although that's starting now. A lot of these myths came from the Beatles themselves. So much of what we're talking about can be tied back to the Lennon Remembers interview, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Even things like Ringo being the luckiest guy in the world. He's said that so many times. So,
but not meaning it in the same way. He's the luckiest guy in the world.
Right.
Because he's in this band with these, fantastic musicians. But being a fantastic musician himself is why he's in that band.
Exactly. Any others?
They came after him.
Yeah. They saw him.
Yeah.
No, we want that guy.
We do. That is exactly what happened.
No, they wanted him.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
He was the best drummer in Liverpool, for sure.
Yeah, and they couldn't get it.
Yeah.
But anybody else? We wrap it up.
Mythbusters.
Mythbusters and hot takes.
We could just.
Jeremy.
I've got a sarcastic myth you can break.
Oh,
go.
The myth is that the next Beatles or solo Beatles box will be crossed over the $2,000 platform. True or false?
I'm gonna go false on that.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
You've heard that?
I'm gonna tell you this. speaking of what's on the internet and everybody's got their own page, everybody that has posted to this point about what the next anthology-ish project is gonna be, they can't have missed it by any more than they have.
Ah.
Really?
I'm just saying that.
So the live is off, recording is off. Do you wanna stay in this room?
Put it this way, right church, but not nearly the right view, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
There you heard it first.
I was kind of looking forward to anthology.
I was just gonna, I
didn't say it won't be something in and around that, but they're not on the trail. Not yet, they're not.
Interesting.
Get more knowns.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's funny that the anthology is another one of like they're breaking certain myths, you know, but also building ones, and it's with their authorship of saying that this is our story.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting as people that are again interested in the true history of this. That a, you know, verifiable? Is that a valuable historical text if it's coming from them themselves?
It is, but you always have to look at it with a twinge of context, right? Yeah. You look at these things like the Bible. John said this in 1970. Well, depending on the day of the week and how his mood, it changed. Even George in the anthology, right? You know, that's everything. So we look at these things. Okay, George talking about Let It Be earlier. He's pretty negative about that period in the anthology, right? But now, just before, like you were saying, David, okay, is that become a myth now? Because now Peter Jackson's done this Disney-ified great thing, but if we watch George in 1995 and that comes out, it's gonna change. It's gonna change the narrative a little bit.
Yeah.
Because what is documented is there. So that's gonna be interesting to see if there's edits, if there's cuts.
Time as a way of, you know, letting those things kind of sift out, right? If you get that, what was it, the David Wig interviews? Remember
Right.
Yeah. No one had one good word to say about the Let It Be session. They were dreadful, they were cold, they were unproductive, we weren't getting along. Every negative observation in the world, right? Get Back, because it's in context. It was at that time they had a lot of other inner struggles and turmoil. When you saw Get Back, clearly they're having some fun.
Yeah.
They are having some fun.
Right.
And you know, the memories get a little bit selective over time.
They do, and as we said, I think before again, the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? And that's how it's going to be.
It's a good life lesson,
for sure. So, thank you guys.
If you're not already familiar, which hopefully you are, we are a YouTube podcast. Search us up, Hands Across the Water. I'm not going to sing it for you, but...
No, you can hear Tony's band play it. It's our theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do shows like this. We do album reviews. We make fantasy playlists. We go live.
Yeah. All on there. So it's only about, like I said, 5 months old, but in flesh here for the first time. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.